So, we've been talking about the transition from the Betty Friedan housewife and the mystique of marriage and the transition from that to feminism. Tell us can you articulate what feminism did for you? Why it felt like that flash of lightning suddenly?
I can't tell you why. I can tell you what. It opened my eyes to this extraordinary insight that we had been raised not to take ourselves seriously as people in the world enterprise. We'd been raised ever since I can remember. My mother said, "You're a smart girl, you're an intelligent girl, you should get an education, but always remember love is the most important thing in a woman's life." So why did I need an education, Ma? Well, in case your husband dies or deserts you, you'll have a trade. That was the term that a working class mother would have applied to a girl like me. You'll have a trade.
I remember that clearly from my own childhood, of course. But here's the question. So once you saw, or once you recognized that we had been sort of underestimated all our lives, did that actually change what you were doing? Did you then stop looking for a man and start?
Yes, I actually did. Yes, I did. And I've written a lot about this, about, quote unquote, giving up romantic love. And not giving it up necessarily in the flesh. It is that I stopped falling in love, but certainly the terms of life changed completely. Marriage was no longer something to be sought. Marriage was something that might happen, might not, never did again, but might have happened, might not have happened, but it was absolutely on the back burners. What was on the front was to make myself a disciplined worker, which I've spent my life struggling to be. I thought, Freud had it right, work and love in that order, that the idea of making love or the connection to another human being through the conduit of love, making that my identity, that lost its power. It lost all authority over me. Before that, I probably never had actually wanted those things. But I was confused, tremendously confused, because Mama in the back of my head was saying, love is the most important thing in a woman's life. In other words, that was to be your destiny, that was to be your identity, that was to be who you were. It didn't really matter what you did, because eventually you were going to get married. So this, in 1970, came as a big shock to somebody like me. And out of it was like I was coming out of Plato's cave. We were stumbling through the shadows to figure out what the actual outline of a life could be. It shocks me terribly to see today that many, many young women in their 30s and 40s, are using the same language that we used then.
For example?
For example, a woman named Kate Bollock has written a book called Spinster, in which the first sentences of the book are, the first and most important questions of a woman's life are not whether she will marry, but when she will marry. She's 42 years old writing this today. And then she recounts a life of herself. She thinks of herself as stumbling and struggling to make her, not make her peace, but make a mantra out of being a single woman. And she writes about this the way we wrote about it 40 years ago. It just shocks me terribly. And that leads me back, by the way, into women's history, because when we were saying what we were saying in the 1970s, oh my God, sexism, discovering that word, the word as if it fell from heaven. It was electrifying. It suddenly explained everything. It was a word we made up. I don't even remember the first time I heard it. But it was as if it explained everything. I was armed with that word, and I could explain women's lives, past, present, and future, right? So then I found myself saying, oh, look at this. As a little girl, I'm told this is what I want, not this, et cetera, on and on. And I think this is the first time it's ever been said. Mm-hmm. It was like we never entered the libraries, we never looked in the archives, we never listened to the testimony before ourselves. And then, indeed, suddenly somebody put into my hands Elizabeth Cady Stanton's The Solitude of Self. And it was, I can't describe it to you. It was like drinking from the waters of purity. And she was extraordinary for me. And why was she extraordinary? Because she was saying every single thing that I was saying it better, saying it 100 years earlier. And then I read Mary Wollstonecraft, and she was saying it 100 years before that. And I thought, my God, until it's over, the rhetoric is the same.
But women had been saying it and having an impact on a small group of women.
Yes, exactly. It
but
was like every 50 years, it raised its ugly little head again.
Right.
And women said the same thing again, and we made this much progress and fell back this much, and then this much progress and fell back this much. And that taught me that this was the longest revolution on record, that the idea of women's equality produced more anxiety in any culture than anything else.
Right.
And had for hundreds of years.